Hey, this is Chad Mumm, executive producer of Full Swing, and welcome to Golf Show.
Beautiful.
Welcome to Golf Show, Hardy.
And welcome to Golf Show. Ja, præcis.
Sådan er det. Sådan er det.
Altså, når, friskt, nyt.
Altså, når vi skal tale fremmedsprog, så må vores gæster også forsøge sig på dansk i det mindste, ikke?
Det er det mindste, de kan gøre. Så det, han var en good sport, for at sige det på Chads sprog. Han var cool. Det var fedt, at han var med på den også.
Og det var en one take.
Der var one take. Han kørte ikke med flere af den slags.
Og så vi igennem fingre med, at det var måske sådan halv engelsk. Men ved du hvad? Alt er godt.
Det var altså... Man kunne godt høre, at han forsøgte, trods alt.
Lige nøjagtigt. Og man kan også godt høre, at han havde været i Europa før.
Absolut.
At han så troede, at Thomas Pieters var fra Danmark, det kan vi komme tilbage til.
Ja, der var vist lidt derinde midt i det hele, ikke? Ja. Men sådan kan det jo også...
Belgien-Danmark, ikke?
Belgien-Danmark, ja. Tomato.
Ja. Nå, du lytter altså til golfshowet, ganske som Chad Mumm han sagde. Det er det helt særlige afsnit af golfshowet, produceret af Kvartrup Media i samarbejde med Golfeksperten, som er hele Danmarks golfbutik. Vi skulle hilse at sige fra Golfeksperten, at TaylorMade snart er ude med nyheder, og at deres fitting-tour starter i næste uge hos Golfeksperten. De har en rigtig fin kalender på hjemmesiden, golfeksperten.dk, hvor du kan se fitting-turkalenderen og hvornår de forskellige mærker er i hvilke butikker. I næste uge, den 15. februar, der udkommer Full Swing. Det er en ny stor satsning fra Netflix i stil med Drive to Survive, som handlede om Formel 1. Full Swing er en serie på 8 afsnit, der går tæt på golfåret 2022 hos herrerne, med fokus på de 4 majors og de største øjeblikke på PGA Touren. Der er fokus på 14 spillere, som alle i større eller mindre grad har lukket producerne ind bag facaden. Og det kan vi jo godt lide, Andreas. Det er jo også lidt det, vi gerne vil med det her, ikke? Vi vil gerne lidt tættere på.
Jo, og netop kom det der spadestik dybere, end hvad man bare ser, når man ser golf på fjernsyn. Ja. Sådan normalt, når man ser de her 72-hullers turneringer, der bliver ikke åbnet så meget op, men det lader til, at det er tilfældet her, at det netop der bliver gravet lidt i overfladen. Skal vi ikke sige det sådan?
Vi vil gerne kende mennesket bag ved golfspilleren, ikke?
Præcis, det kan vi godt lide. Så det bliver sjovt.
Ja, det gør det. Og jeg tror også, at vi er nødt til at sige, at vi får altså ikke penge af Netflix for det her. Vi er begge to golfnørder, og når der så kommer en global spiller som Netflix og sætter fokus på golfen, så synes vi, det er fedt.
Absolut. Igen, det bliver jo, altså, så får man spredt golfen ud til masserne, kan man sige, ikke? Jeg ved ikke, hvor mange der abonnerer på Netflix, men det er nok over 500 mennesker, tror jeg. Så der er mulighed for, at det virkelig kan nå bredt ud.
Ja, og så kommenterer du i PGA-turen, og jeg er bare vild med golf og har været i USA en del gange og sådan noget. Så
ringen er sluttet. Det hele simpelthen, det hele kører.
Fuldstændig. Det er altså spillere som Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Matthew Fitzpatrick og Collin Morikawa, men også mindre profilerede spillere som Sahith Theegala og Joel Damon, som er med i den her serie. Og så lykkedes det faktisk også fra producerne at få Rory McIlroy til at være med, som et ret stort prik over i'et, vil jeg sige, og det kommer den gode chat også ind på i vores snak.
Vel det største prik over i'et, man kan få.
Ja, det skulle lige være Tiger.
Ja, det kan der være noget om, selvfølgelig. Ja. Så næststørste.
Ja, præcis. Vi fangede sidste fredag Chad Mumm, som er idé-mand og executive producer, til en snak om serien, og så fik vi også testet vores skoleengelsk, Andreas.
Det skal jeg love dig for. Jeg var en lille smule nervøs, selvom jeg jo på et tidspunkt i mit liv har levet nærmest på engelsk, så er det længe siden, så det skulle lige støves af.
Ja, og der var selvfølgelig lidt knuder på tungen hister her, men ellers så kom der en rigtig fin snak ud af det. Og synes du ikke bare, vi skal sætte den i gang? Skal vi ikke bare få hørt vores snak med den gode Chad Mumm, manden bag Full Swing?
Det synes jeg.
Så kommer den her. Chad, thank you so much for coming on the show today to talk about Full Swing. We're recording this on February 3rd, so the premiere is 12 days away. How's the butterfly situation? Can you feel the excitement building?
I am so excited. It's been such a long process to get to this place. Honestly, I've been asked that question before. People are like, how are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you nervous? I'm like, honestly, this is the easy part. You know, we did the hard part already. That the show's done. It's been sent to Netflix. Yeah. And now we're just waiting for it to come out. So this is the fun part. You know, right. The last 2 years was the hard part. This is the easy part.
Yeah, fantastic. So you pitched this idea, what is it now, 4 years ago to Netflix? Is that correct?
So kind of. So I've been working on this really for, kind of more or less like 6 or 7 years. Wow. I have a pretty long relationship with the media team at the PGA Tour who do the media rights. And I got to know those guys, maybe a decade ago and pitched them on this idea back then, and they weren't ready yet to do it. Right. And then every year we would go play golf because I'm a golf nut, and so we would all go to this technology convention in Las Vegas called CES, and it's always in January. And I used to live in New York, and it was nice in Vegas. We'd always play golf together. So every time we'd play, I'd ask, "Hey, is it time? We're going to do our doc series, right? Let's do it." And they were like, "No, we're not quite ready." But then in 2019,
did they move though? Did they go in the right direction? Could you feel it?
Yeah, well, no, but then 2019, it was like Jay Monahan had become commissioner. So I think that was the big change, the turning point. So we go, I get invited out to Shadow Creek, which was, I'd never played before, very kind of exclusive high-end club in Las Vegas. So I was very excited about that. So we go out to Shadow Creek. It's like this, beautiful morning. I got some rental clubs, and I remember we're standing on the first tee, and I tell my friend Chris Wandell, who's the PGA Tour executive, and I was like, "Chris, now's the time, man. We got to do this. Let's make this show." And he's like, "You know what? I think now is the time, actually." So Over the course of that round, we kind of worked out what the deal would look like. 3 months later, I was at the Players Championship. We had sort of just signed the deal with the PGA Tour, so I had the rights to make this show. And then, a month later, I'm at Augusta with a general admission pass, literally, and a list of players' agents and their photos, and walking around, standing outside the ropes of the tree, which if you've ever been to Augusta, there's like this giant tree right outside the clubhouse, and the entire sort of golf world is like inside these little ropes, and it's like the haves and the have-nots. And I was standing on the outside because you can't have your phone, and I was like looking at my little cue card, being like,
so you're stalking people.
That's right. You're Rory's agent. You're JT's agent. You're Jordan Spieth's agent. And we'd call them over, and I'd pitch them on the idea.
Had they heard about you? So was that the first they heard of you?
They knew that the tour had sort of given me the rights, so they were, begrudgingly speaking to me. But then, it took a year to get, sort of initial list of players together. And then during COVID, that's when Netflix got involved, and Drive to Survive had come out. So originally the show, we didn't know about Drive to Survive. So it was just, going to be a doc series, a similar idea, but then Drive to Survive came out, so Netflix got involved. They got excited. They said, "Okay, we'll do this. We need you to get the majors," because we just had the PGA Tour. So it was interesting because during COVID, they had to sort of remake the golf calendar. So traditionally, the PGA Tour and all the majors and governing bodies of golf, they didn't talk to each other that often. They kind of had their own fiefdoms. But then during COVID, they had to sort of come together, and I think they all were sitting around the table virtually for sort of maybe the first time. There's this kind of collaborative spirit about bringing golf back from COVID.
Nice.
And so they were on board, and actually Augusta was the first major to say yes, which was kind of, so maybe it's surprising to me.
Nice.
But they totally understood what we were trying to do.
What were those conversations like with Augusta?
Pretty short, actually. We pitched them on the idea. I remember very vividly, in the middle of the COVID lockdowns, doing a Zoom call and just waiting and seeing someone pop up, and it just said Augusta National under their little square, and I was like, this is actually happening. This is crazy. But it was a short call.
You're screenshotting at the same time.
I did actually take a screenshot of it. Yes, I did a screenshot of that. I did a screenshot of my Zoom with Brooks Koepka because I was like, nice. I can't believe this is actually happening. But they got it.
We're your third screenshot then.
No, definitely. You guys are getting that third one for sure. But they really understood what we were trying to do. I think Augusta has also understood that, they want to expand and grow their audience, and there's a new generation of fans, and they need to kind of constantly be at the cutting edge of technology and reaching people. So, it wasn't like I had to convince them. I think they came ready to just hear the idea, and they were very supportive. So that was surprisingly, I would call it easy, but it was definitely, there was the spirit of let's all work together and make this happen.
Nice. So when you say that they understood what you were trying to do, what is it that you're trying to do? Is it a show about the PGA Tour? Is it a show about the year in golf? How would you describe it?
I think that's a really good question, actually. So, what I told Augusta, and it's what I told all the players, it's we're not here to tell the story of this major championship or this tour or whatever. We're here to tell the story of what it's like to be a competitor in professional golf. And that was sort of the difference maker, I think, with Augusta, is we kind of went there. We're like, look, we're not making a documentary about the Masters, you guys could do that. You should do that. You have done that. We're here to kind of try and capture what it feels like to be a competitor at the Masters. We want to show up with these players. We want to go where they go. We want to meet the people they meet that week. And we want to bring you inside of that world in a way that it feels like you were there. And you kind of are seeing it in a way that you've never seen it before. And so certainly the ambition of the show is to take you inside professional golf in a much deeper, much more intimate way than really anyone's ever seen before. And it really is from the players' POV, you know, and I told all the players when they signed up, like, I want you to watch this after it comes out and feel like you could tell your friends, like, that's what it was like you got it, you nailed what the feeling was. And so that was the approach. And then also with the players, it's like, we're not tweeting this the next day. You know, you could have a bad round, you could have a bad day, you could say something, you know, you could be upset. Like, we've got a year of context to bring to this. So don't worry about our cameras catching something. It's not going out on the internet the next day. We're going to have, you know, 6 more months of filming with you in your lowest moment to your highest moment. And we're going to pull all that together and tell like a really impactful, you know, exciting story. So yeah, that's what we were trying to do. I mean, it was what the year in professional golf was like from the perspective of the players who were living it. That's what we were trying to do.
Right. Was it always going to be about the biggest stars, or did you ever was it ever in your mind to make it about the guys struggling trying to get through the ranks?
Like Andreas and his,
exactly, like me. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get at. When are you calling me?
Exactly. I got it. Well, hey, here we go. Let's, season 2. No, so we, we definitely wanted to make sure that we were able to like tell a full range of stories. I mean, obviously from a general interest perspective, we wanted to have the big names, but we also have a couple players who, aren't as widely known. I mean, I think of Joel Damon as a real example of that. People in golf know Joel Damon, but not much outside of it. And he's certainly,
I think after the Phoenix episode, he's going to be well known.
Oh boy, yes. I think he will be one of the guys that really gets the Netflix boost. But and then we were following Mito Pereira. We were with Sahith Theegala, the rookies storylines, and you get a good balance of like Collin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, and also Mito Pereira, Sahith Theegala, Gino and Joel Damon, like. So yeah, it's a good mix. I mean, I think that there's so many amazing stories to tell in pro golf, and you could tell the story of a guy trying to grind his way to keep his card and trying to make cuts. And, there's amazing stories on the Korn Ferry Tour, the Challenge Tour. But, we were very fortunate to have, 22 of the best players in the world, including the world number 1, both Scotty Scheffler and then Rory, and he became number 1. So,
and if I'm not
plenty of stories there.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, Chad, was it a secret that Rory was involved? That wasn't broken until the trailer came out, was it?
It was a secret, yes. Okay. And that was actually because he wasn't involved originally. Okay. And so we had pitched him and his team on coming in, and I think he they were great to work with, but they were very transparent that, look, he wanted to focus on golf. He had a lot going on in his life, and he was just going to focus on his game. And they were kind of like, let's see how it turns out, and then we'll talk to you about, future seasons. I think a little bit like Lewis Hamilton, with Drive to Survive, wasn't in season 1. But we didn't give up on it. And as we were filming, with all the other players, I mean, it's his peers, right, that we're filming with, and they're all in the same locker room. They're all in the same workout, physio trailer. They're all in the same driving range. And we kept noticing Rory like popping up in our shots, like we'd be filming with Collin or something, and he'd have a mic on, and there'd be a boom over his head, and Rory would just come and sit down and start talking to him, and he'd like, we're like, okay, he sees what we're doing, like he wants in on this. I know he does. But then at the end of the year, I went and showed up at a clubhouse with the express goal of like, I'm going to find Rory and I'm going to give it one last shot. Right. And sure enough, it's 8 a.m. on a Monday at a tournament, and there's nobody there. And I'm just like wandering around. I'm like, I know Rory's going to be here. And I know he kind of tends to show up early and have breakfast and go stretch. And so I'm just like wandering the clubhouse, just waiting and hoping. And sure enough, I come around the corner. There's this little player dining area that's off of the main player dining area. And it's totally empty except for guess who's sitting there by himself, Rory McIlroy.
Nice.
So I walk by the room and I go look in a mirror and I'm like, all right, you can do this. Like, this is your one shot. Give myself a little pep talk.
And you got him sitting down so he couldn't walk away.
He couldn't walk away. No, and I was blocking the exit too. So so I go back and I sit down with Rory, and I'd known him a little bit. He certainly knew who I was and what we were doing. And I just sat down, and my opening line was pretty much like, Rory, the world needs to hear from you, and we may never get a chance to do this again. And if you do come into season 2, if there is a season 2, it's like, they're not going to hear from you till 2024. And with everything that's been going on and your leadership and your play on the golf course, like the world needs to hear from you now.
Right. When was this during the year?
It was after the Open Championship. So It was like right after the
It makes sense.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then he said yes. And then an hour later he was like wearing a mic and was like in the locker room, like cutting up with everybody else. So, you know, Rory does not do anything half measure. Like he's all in with everything he does. And once he said yes, I mean, he was all in and he was incredible. So I can't wait for you to see the Rory episode. It's so good.
I'm looking so much forward to it. Yeah, fantastic. Because at one point in the trailer, Ian Poulter says, you picked a hell of a year to follow the PGA Tour. What was your reaction when it became clear that, holy shit, this could be the wildest year in golf?
I mean, that was verbatim what I said, I think. Holy shit, this is going to be wild. Yeah. When the LIV stuff, so, you know, we had heard that may be on the horizon, but it, you know, it was always just talk, and there had been sort of threats about it for a year or two. So we were like, oh, maybe it'll be this year, maybe it won't. I mean, we don't know. And we felt like we had plenty of storylines to tell, you know, without it. But I mean, vividly, I remember being at the Genesis Invitational, which is at Riviera, and it's a funny picture because most of the media centers on the PGA Tour are like intense, you know, it's like it's set up somewhere, whatever. But at Riviera, it's in the clubhouse in this beautiful ballroom that has like, you know, high vaulted ceilings and beautiful windows looking out on this amazing golf course. And it's just very kind of iconic feeling room. And I remember being in the media center, it was maybe a Monday or Tuesday of Riviera. And all of a sudden, like the news started to break that this LIV thing was like about to happen. And you could just feel the energy shift, and people are like whispering to each other and they're like looking at their phones. And then, you know, it just changed all of a sudden. From that moment, you know, nothing was going to be the same ever again. Right. And we just kind of we're like, I can't believe this is actually happening in the year that we have the cameras here. And we were filming, you know, we'd been filming with like Brooks and DJ and Ian Poulter and Joaquin for like the whole year.
Is that when the Bryson statement came out?
That's when the Bryson statement came out. Yep. And we were like, we're just going to keep going. Like, we're going to keep filming with you. If you leave, we're going to keep going. And we want to see, you know, this is about you and it's from your point of view. So, you know, if you're going to leave,
you followed them to LIV too.
Yeah.
Because that was my next question, actually. When LIV happened, did your involvement with any of those players change?
No, we just kept going.
Good.
We just kept going.
A year in golf, huh? And not just the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, and we went to one LIV. We went to the first LIV event with Ian. And I think, you know, people are going to be shocked to hear from him. You know, I think like it's just the context of like being with him for months and then watching him sort of struggle with that decision is really an interesting story. And you know, and same thing with DJ and in some sense Brooks. You know, I think whether or not you agree with their choice, I think you're going to understand it. You know, you're at least going to understand it a lot better. You know, watching the show.
Sure. Were there any discussions? You said you made the deal with PGA Tour. Were there any discussions if this was all right with them or no?
No, I mean, of course, but it wasn't necessarily a choice that they could make. You know, they from the beginning, you know, we had said that they're not going to have editorial control, and you know, and we basically said, look, it would be unfair to the audience to just like kick these guys out. You know, like they've been giving us real access. There's really interesting stories there. And, you know, and we're not here to really editorialize. We just want to hear from the players. And, you know, I think the way that it all shook out with Rory sort of coming in at the last minute and then winning the FedEx Cup, you know, it sort of, he puts the sort of final stamp on the season and on the year. And it just gives you all the context. But, you know, some of my favorite stories are like, you know, Brooks Koepka's story and Ian's story and watching them sort of go through the process of kind of deciding to make some kind of giant decision that will affect their legacy potentially and the rest of their lives. So, you know, that's always going to be interesting.
And of course, our podcast is big on goosebumps, and I'm sitting here with goosebumps on my arm because it's I mean, those stories are crazy to hear about.
Yeah, and I guess Rory is a great get, not just because he's the best golfer in the world, but also because he's the face. I mean, he's the spokesperson, right?
Yeah, I mean, he, you know, whether or not he would say that, I think he certainly grabbed that mantle. Right. And what's so impressive about him is that he somehow like played even better after doing that, you know, and whether or not that's like just an additional drive for him to just know that he had to back it up on the golf course. It's just, you know, you would never imagine a normal person like taking on the pressure of becoming that main voice for the players on the PGA Tour and arguing for what he really believes in. And then also like somehow like playing even better after that. You know, it's fascinating.
I mean, knowing the amount of pressure you have as a player and then having to do that as well is just it's mind blowing.
Yeah. So, Chad, when you look back on the original pitch that you made, the original idea that you had, how much has it changed towards the final product that you're now pushing out?
I think the high level pitch is exactly the same. You know, we wanted to look at golf in an unfiltered way, and we wanted to have it be sort of warts and all, is what we kept saying, and that certainly held up. You know, and it's a cinematic show. It's beautiful. The music is cool. Like the editing's cool.
The trailer
graphics are cool. I mean,
the trailer was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's very premium, and you know, we definitely delivered on the promise of like real access and a look at this kind of crazy traveling circus and lifestyle that is pro golf in a way that no one's ever seen before. You know, definitely the storylines, you know, got significantly more dramatic with LIV showing up, but we also had like amazing kind of payoff on the golf course that had nothing to do with LIV. And I think about like Matt Fitzpatrick is a great example. Like he was a player that frankly was not really on the top of our list as we were making the player list for this. Not that he's not great, but just like,
sure,
you know, he's not known for having like a huge personality, and you know, and he's playing well, but he hadn't won on the PGA Tour, you know, and
right.
But he, you know, his agents, we've done a lot of work with the company that, you know, his agency, and with other players like Collin and JT, and they've been great. And they kind of were like, hey, you should look at Matt Fitzpatrick, like he's you know, trending up, and I'm not sure if it was like a favor to them, but we're like, yeah, we'll look at him, you know, and he came in for his first interview. And I remember, you know, Paul Martin and I were sitting there, and we like finished his interview. We looked at each other. We were like, holy shit, this guy's awesome. You know, completely so easy to root for, you know, and I wouldn't call him like an underdog, but definitely like a different approach to the game than anyone else we spoke to. And so, and then, you know, he's European, and whether, I don't know what it is about you Europeans, but he's so open from the very beginning. Like he didn't care about the cameras being there at all. Like it was we never had to cajole him to like, let us come and shoot. You know, he did everything we asked in terms of access, and then, you know, it paid off in a major way. It was we were following him, you know, throughout the beginning part of the season. You could tell he was like playing better and better and better, and you could watch him just incrementally improve, and his finishes were getting better. And then he goes to the PGA Championship, and we're like, well, let's just keep going with him there at a major, see how he does.
Right.
And if you remember, you know, he got into the final group.
Right.
You know, we were with him the night before the final round at Southern Hills at the PGA Championship, and there's a really fun sort of, speaking of, you know, Denmark, there's a fun Thomas Peters, you know, cameo. They're hanging out waiting for him, you know, literally like trying to take your mind off anything but what's going to happen the next day. And so we were there for that. That's a fun little cameo with Thomas. And then he didn't win. And we rode home with him that night, you know, driving away from Southern Hills, and just silence in the car as he kind of thought about, you know, what had slipped away. So, of course, going into the U.S. Open, you know, with his history there, winning the U.S. Amateur at Brookline, and like, we're like, all right, well, let's see how he does. And he gave us tons of access that week. And I think the 72nd hole of that golf tournament, when he hits the shot out of that bunker, which I would say is probably one of the best, you know, shots in major championship history, I think, given the moment and the pressure.
It's up there.
It's right up there. And, you know, and just to have the pay, I mean, we were more excited than he was, you know, like our team like ran onto the green at the end, you know, it was like, we got to film, guys, like, but you know, you can't run and celebrate, you got to film it. But that moment, that whole day was so cinematic. Like the you know, it was kind of overcast, there was like fog, we're in Boston, it looked like a Revolutionary War movie or something. And you know, you'll see in the show, like that shot I think is kind of the high point of the whole season, of the whole show. And nice. You know, it's because you get 6 months worth of context to lead up to that point. And you know, if you don't get goosebumps at the end of that episode, I mean, you're not alive.
No, I have goosebumps already until I see it. So it's already there.
I love that the goosebump movement is spreading.
It's spreading.
Yes.
It's spreading. Yeah. Great. Was that one of your dreams when you started the show, to have one of your characters win a major during the year? It must have been.
Absolutely, and we got 3 of them. We got 3 of the 4. You know, we got Scotty at the Masters. We got Justin Thomas.
JT, right?
You know, and then Matt, and then you know we were following Rory at the Open Championship, even though he wasn't technically a part of the show, and we had just sort of decided that we were going to shoot him anyway, and just I was going to go afterwards. I mean, frankly, I think everyone assumed he was going to win that week, so we were like, well, it's just, it'll be a lot easier to ask him after he wins, if we could use the stuff that we shot, because we can film him. We have the access, to film, but we wouldn't be able to use it. And if he didn't sign up, and then that's why he's so impressive. It's even more impressive that he knew we had filmed him inside the ropes that week, and he still said yes, even though that was the most potentially the most heartbreaking moment in his career. And it's just that's who Rory is. It's amazing.
Speaking of the Open and everything that happened. At St. Andrews that week, I'm assuming there must have been conversations with Tiger's camp along the way. Why did he say no, or what were those conversations like?
Well, Tiger's definitely appears in the show more as a figurehead for other people's storylines, but certainly there's no doing last year in golf without including Tiger in some way. But yeah, I don't know. I think, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do more with him, as the show continues to be successful. But, he didn't play that much. He played the majors, and that was pretty much it. He didn't play the U.S. Open, right? So it wasn't like he was around the same way that others were. And, but he certainly appears in it. There's no
such an
shortage
iconic moment. Just such an iconic moment at that's Welcome Bridge and
well, that's in the show for sure.
Oh yeah, nice.
What was cool is we were filming Rory, and he was walking down the first tee when Tiger was coming up the 18th hole.
Yeah, that's true.
And so there's a very
tip the cap.
Yeah, there's a very organic moment of connection between the two of them, and that's a pretty special thing to see.
Like passing the baton, that's nice. I remember that moment very vividly.
Oh yeah.
We got a couple of listener questions, Chad. One listener is asking, did anything surprise you in the whole production of this? Player access or anything like that?
Yeah, I think Brooks Koepka surprised me the most of anybody.
Okay.
I think he has such a.
In what way?
There's such a persona and a character that he has established for himself in the media, and it's like, I'm this alpha male. I'd rather be playing another sport. I don't practice. And so you kind of get this almost like macho jock callousness. It's like, does he even like golf? And he came in. First off, when we did our first round of interviews, he was the only player who showed up alone. He didn't bring an agent. He didn't have an entourage. He just came by himself, which I thought was awesome. Just kind of his individual nature. And then he sat down and was so open and vulnerable and real about about just his game and his injuries and his struggles and what it felt like to be sort of on top of the world, sort of unassailably, and then have that slip away, even a little bit, and as you guys know in pro golf, the difference between winning and losing is such a small margin. And, he told us the story of waking up at 2 a.m, laying next to his wife, literally making a club grip in his hand, just thinking about maybe I should strengthen my left hand a little bit,
Gosh, yeah.
All he thinks about is golf. And whether or not he manufactures that personality for the media, who knows? But he shocked me with his vulnerability, and I'm so grateful for him to actually show up and be real, and talk about a guy who is not at all who you think he is. We had a lot of those moments.
It's interesting to see how he has become, or how he's exposed to the world. I played with him on Challenge Tour, and he was the nicest of guys, and there was nothing there. And we had a mustache challenge and stuff like that. It's just a completely different life now, or viewing of him. Yeah.
Did you ever ask any of the players, or did any of the players ever come to you and say, "Hey, can you please not show this," or the other way around?
That never. I thought that was going to happen, but it never really did. We never caught anything, I don't know, damaging or anything like that. They, we got stuff that they're unfiltered for sure. A lot of cussing, a lot of gambling, a lot of some of that stuff, but nothing. No one ever came up and said, "Hey, can you not film that?" The only player who really was I don't want to be on camera was Jon Rahm.
All right.
And he, I don't, you'll have to ask him when he comes on the podcast about why, he doesn't want to be a part of it. But
it's after you, just after you here, we have a call with him.
Yeah, exactly. Really just, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with me for sure. But,
only going up from here. Yeah.
You just warm up.
Yeah. But he did end up in one scene, and we listen, look, we tried to respect him with that, and he's like, "I don't want to be on camera." We're like, "Fine, we won't shoot you." But there was one scene, one time when it was at the U.S. Open where they were like sitting around in the player dining area, and it was like John and Collin Morikawa and Rory were at a table, and Joel Damon was one of the people we were following that week, and he had like played really well. Like he had Monday, he qualified through the sectional qualifying or the regional qualifying, got into the U.S. Open, and then if you remember, like ended up in the final group on Saturday, so played well enough on Friday, made the cut, and then he was in the final group, and he came in after that Friday round. I think it was Friday. And it was this hilariously like evocative scene with like the three best players in the world, John, Collin, and Rory, like sitting at a lunch table, and he's like standing there with his plate of food, and you could just see his mind turning. Like, do I sit with these guys? There was a fourth chair, like
with his bucket hat on and glasses.
Exactly. Like, do I go sit with them or do I go? And so he just kind of awkwardly stands there, and they're like, "Hey, man, nice playing." He's like, "Thanks."
Fantastic.
And so John made it into that scene, and I had to let his team know that he's in the show a bit, but hopefully he won't be too mad at me.
No. Nice. Being mindful of time here, I have two more questions. I don't know, Andreas, if you have anything burning that you want to...
Yeah, I have another one if it's all right with Chad.
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Do you have any personal goals with like viewing numbers and stuff? Is it a goal of yours to beat the Drive to Survive or Breakpoint, or is that none of your... does that not come into mind at all?
Man, I'm trying to beat Avatar. I want to be the most viewed media in the world.
There you go.
You got to aim high. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we, I would love for people to fall in love with the show the same way they fall in love with Drive to Survive. And, I think that we have a good chance. I mean, I think golf is, people have, even general sports fans have sort of a sense of the disruption in golf. And I think the LIV controversy is going to make people want to tune in and see what that was like. And then, golf has a huge audience, especially in the States. It's like, it is a much bigger audience than Formula One had when that show started. And, so yeah, I mean, the dream would be that it does for golf what Drive to Survive has done for Formula One, for sure.
We all hope that.
That's what we're hoping as well.
Follow golf.
Yeah, for sure. Chad, is there already talk about a season 2, or are you waiting to see how it performs?
We have not confirmed anything publicly about season 2.
Okay.
So that's my politician's answer.
we hear you.
All right. We're looking forward to season 2 then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question.
Just call me. Just call me if you want me in it.
Yep,
there you go.
Yeah. I proposed to my wife at a European Tour event on the course, so I'm good on TV.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, yeah, you're a good character.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there any particular episode, Chad, or storyline that you would highlight for our listeners to look forward to, or? I mean, I know that, with the Phoenix episode, I can't wait to watch the Harry Higgs and Joel Damon debacle.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That's a fun one. I mean, what a party that was. What a scene. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the episode, it's really focused on Joel and, and his relationship with his caddy, Gino, and his wife,
right.
Lana. Like, it's so much deeper than you think when you hear Joel Damon. You think about him taking his shirt off and that party scene and like his life and what he's overcome and that relationship. It's such a great story. It's such a great sports story. It's such a great human story. So that I think is going to surprise people. In terms of just pure like sports documentaries, like it's hard to beat the Matt Fitzpatrick episode just because you just see how much work and how much, heartbreak goes into a moment where you finally get a chance to sit on top of the world. And, and you just dream of being able to be in the right rooms and the right places with your cameras to tell a story like that. And it's certainly lived up to it. So that one, I think those two, maybe, you watch the whole thing, obviously watch every episode, but,
And how many episodes is it?
It's 8 episodes.
8 episodes. And it airs.
But just bring the popcorn, bring the tissues for the Joel Damon episode. You might tear up a bit. And
bring the goosebumps.
The goosebumps, yeah.
Bring the goosebumps for Fitzpatrick, for sure.
That's it. Nice. And it comes out on February 15th, right?
February 15th on Netflix, full swing. Hopefully you won't be able to miss it. We'll be, once this podcast come out, everyone will know.
Absolutely,
definitely. So there you go.
That's it. And I know that there's a Super Bowl ad coming as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, the Super Bowl ad just came out, so you can check it out.
I saw that this morning, yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for taking the time to talk to us today. We're very excited about the show, and we cannot wait.
Amazing. Well, it was really great to hang out with you guys. I appreciate you and your listeners, making time to chat with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and best of luck with the whole thing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Jeg skal lige høre, har du Det var en god snak, vi havde med Chad her, men hvor langt er I forhandlingerne i forhold til sæson 2? Jeg kan godt lide, at du lige kaster dig selv ind i maskineriet.
Ja, jeg forsøger i hvert fald. Jeg vil sige, der må være noget galt i kommunikationen, for jeg har ikke hørt fra ham. Men jeg venter da, at kontrakten, det tager selvfølgelig noget tid at få sådan en kontrakt sendt hen over Atlanten, og det også finde frem til en adresse, og hvad ved jeg. Så det kan ikke være længe, før den lander på matriklen.
Næste gang du sidder og spiser morgenmad et sted, så kommer han og presser dig op i et hjørne og siger, hvad så Andreas?
Ja, det er, jeg skal begynde at drømme om, at det er ham, der laver mig en omelet, og ikke Rory McIlroy.
Ja, nemlig. Og så kan jeg også lige høre dig og Koepka. Hvad var det med den historie med overskægs challenge?
Nej, det var bare, altså, jeg spillede på Challenge-turen, da Brooks Koepka kom igennem Challenge-turen, eller kom over på Challenge-turen, og han var lille og tynd, i hvert fald i forhold til, hvordan han ser ud nu, og bare en helt nede på jorden fyr, og så havde jeg en periode, hvor jeg godt kunne lide at have sådan et flot mustache.
Var det fra Safari-turen?
Men jeg havde flere perioder. Det var lidt op og ned. Det synes han var fint, og så lavede han også et mustache, og så havde vi sådan en lille battle, og det er bare igen, som jeg også siger, det er bare sjovt at se, hvordan han bliver portrætteret nu, og hvordan han måske er blevet, det skal jeg kunne sige her. Jeg snakker af god grund ikke så meget mere med ham, i forhold til, hvad jeg gjorde dengang. Så meget, nej. Så det er jo bare noget andet, men det er jo interessant at se netop også ind bag den karakter nu.
Ja, bestemt. Findes der billeder af jer sammen?
Ikke overskægsmæssigt, tror jeg.
Nej, men i det hele taget.
Det er jeg ikke sikker på. Så det, du siger, det er billeder og didn't happen? Er det, du prøver at
Nej. Jeg ved jo godt, at I spillede på samme tur samtidig.
Nej, jeg tror ikke... Jeg har ikke... Det var ikke, fordi jeg så for mig, at han skulle blive nummer 1 i verden og vinde mange majors, så det var, jeg tog ikke selfies med ham på den måde dengang.
Du skulle have taget selfies med alle sammen.
Ja, det burde jeg. Bare for en sikker skyld. Fordi hvis jeg nu skal lave en podcast, der hedder Golfshow en dag, så er det fedt at have.
Det er jo det.
Ja, det er rigtigt.
Du har lige tænkt 10 år frem, ikke?
Ja, beklager.
Ja. Nå, uanset hvad, det var en god snak, og nu har vi begge to set traileren et par gange. Vi har set lidt af Drive to Survive, den her Netflix-serien Formel 1.
Og Breakpoint.
Og Breakpoint også som tennis. Der er jo ikke sparet på lækkerheden i produktionen, kan man sige.
Tværtimod, det er ikke iPhone-kameraer, de går rundt og filmer med og optager lyd med. Det virker som om, at det er...
Det er nærmest en biografoplevelse, ikke? Altså,
der er styr på det. Der er netop, som du siger, ikke sparet på noget som helst.
Nej. Har du nogle ting, som du har noteret dig, at du ser ekstra meget frem til, både efter vores snak med Chad, men også efter at have nærstuderet traileren?
Nej, jeg bliver nødt til at sige, at det der netop som... Det der også er mit mål med at være her på en eller anden måde, også når jeg kommenterer, det er netop det der med at prøve for den almindelige golfspiller, eller den, der ikke nødvendigvis har været på en professionel tur, også at prøve at forklare lidt om netop det her bagsiden af medaljen, og det virker som om, at det også er et ret stort fokuspunkt for i hvert fald noget af den her serie, er netop også kom til at vise, hvad de store stjerner, og jeg siger ikke, jeg har været en stor stjerne, men hvad de også kæmper med af ting og sager, og bøvler med af skader og formnedgang, og hvad der ellers er, og det synes jeg er fedt, at man netop får serveret, eller virker til at få serveret råt for usødet, så det synes jeg netop er det, der er fedt, at man... Er det der med, at tanken om, at alle professionelle golfspillere bare har et skønt liv, hvor de tjener masser af penge, det er sådan, at det måske bliver arbejdet lidt med på en eller anden måde, og så alle kan se det. Det glæder jeg mig rigtig meget til. Ja,
fordi hvis du tager penge ud af ligningen, så er det jo bare alle helt almindelige mennesker, som kæmper om den samme drøm, ikke? Og om hinandens penge.
Fuldstændig, og har samme issues med problemer på hjemmefronten, og mentale problemer, og skader, og hvad der ellers er af ting og sager. Og jeg synes, jeg glæder mig til at se, hvordan det bliver portrætteret, om det bliver behandlet på den måde, som jeg tænker, at det bliver behandlet. Det bliver sjovt.
Ja, er der nogle bestemte spillere, eller sekvenser, eller historier, du glæder dig til at få foldet ud?
Ja, nu snakker Brooks Koepka, så netop han er jo et ret godt eksempel på en, der har gjort det godt, og så har af flere forskellige årsager tabt form, og har kæmpet med spillet, og se hele den. Det virker også som om i de trailers, der er, at man netop kommer ind bag ved hans beslutning om at tage til LIV, og hvad årsagen er til det. Og jeg vil sige lige præcis den historie, jeg glæder mig til at se.
Og han siger i traileren, I know I'm gonna get shit for this.
Ja, lige præcis. Og det er også derfor, jeg er faktisk spændt på at se ham portrætteret, fordi jeg netop kendte ham en lille smule dengang, og han har haft den der sådan meget... den der ismands attitude på banen og i interviews, og jeg har sådan lidt en drøm om, at det må, eller en tanke om, at det kan være, at han bliver portrætteret lidt anderledes her. Det bliver sjovt.
Men det var faktisk lige præcis det, Chad han sagde jo i vores snak, at Brooks Koepka var den nærmeste ham, der havde overrasket ham mest, ikke? At, det her med, at han lå vågen om nat.
Ja, og så vil jeg sige også bare alle de her, altså, som Chad også var stolt af, at de havde ramt 3 ud af 4 major-vindere, og se, hvordan det ligesom bliver portrætteret, og se netop lidt længere ind bagom de succeser igen. Når man sidder og ser golf på fjernsyn, så ser man jo indtil der har været præmieoverrækkelse, så er det. Jeg tænker, at de går lidt længere og lidt dybere, og får snakket ordentligt med de der historiske vindere af de forskellige majors. Ja.
For lige at gøre Brooks Koepka færdig, så er der en kommentar fra hans kone i traileren, hvor hun siger, at hun er nervøs for fremtiden. Og der håber jeg virkelig, at det ikke er penge, hun er nervøs for. Fordi det kan det ikke være. Altså.
Så er de dygtige til at bruge penge, lad os sige det sådan.
Det tror jeg også, de er. Men,
ja, det tror jeg også, men så er de næsten for dygtige, det er du ret i.
Jeg tænker lidt, det må være noget psyke, eller det må være psyken, hun tænker på, og hans sådan, velvære altså, i at være i alt det der. Ikke?
Klart, og netop. Altså, det er jo også... det kan godt være, at livet bliver lettere med mange penge, men det gør det jo ikke bare... det gør jo ikke bare, at livet er fuldstændig... at man er helt urørlig, og det er... Nej, det tror du ret i. Ja,
og så kan jeg godt lide den sidste scene i traileren med Dustin Johnson, hvor man sådan lidt får hans rigtige væremåde at se på, tror jeg. Jeg ved ikke, hvem det er, der står i baggrunden med den der buggy der, men... Jeg kan godt, fordi han har altid virket for mig lidt bøvet, og han lever den der eksorbitante livsstil, og inde i den der Gretzky-familie, hvor der heller ikke mangler noget. Ja. Men der må også være noget mere bagved. Altså, han må være blevet god på en eller anden måde. Han må have en træningsetik, der er sindssyg. Og
så tror jeg, umiddelbart, igen, nu er det bare for egen regning, så tror jeg også, at meget af det, som man ser af ham, eller har set af ham i pressemøder og sådan noget, det er ren facade, og jeg tror, at der er mere... Jeg tror, han er en jock. Altså, jeg tror, han er sådan lidt semi-bøde, men jeg tror også, han er sjov, og han er lun og sådan noget. Det er netop det der med at komme... Altså, få dem i privaten på en eller anden måde. Jeg tror, det bliver sjovt at se. Ja, og nu, selv for sådan nogen som os, der er lad os sige det som der er ultra-golfnørder.
Ja, præcis. Og i forhold til Brooks og Dustin Johnson, så er det jo begge to folk, som har sprunget over til LIV, for det er også noget, det er ret spændt på. Det er, hvordan de takler hele den der LIV debat, fordi de har jo Ian Poulter med, de har Brooks Koepka med, Dustin Johnson, Joaquin Niemann. Så
det var også noget, der frittede ham lidt for netop det der. Altså, og det synes jeg jo er fedt, at han siger, at jamen, vi kommer til at dække det, fordi det vil ikke være i orden, hvis vi bare lå dem være, efter de stak af til LIV, selvom det er PGA Touren har lavet en aftale med. Ja. Og det synes jeg jo er cool, og så må tiden vise, hvor meget de så dækker det. Det var noget med, at de var ude til en turnering, ikke?
Jo, det var med i London, så
men derfor kan de godt have snakket med dem efterfølgende og derhjemme. Så der er masser af de der ting, der bliver sjovt at se og få sat billeder på.
Og man kan også se i traileren, at de har talt med Ian Poulter op til, at beslutningen blev taget. Altså, de spørger ham jo direkte især i traileren der. Skal du til LIV eller ej, ikke?
Ja, netop.
Det er faktisk ret spændt på at se.
Ja, men der er mange af de der historier, som... Altså, jeg vil sige, jeg har læst et par anmeldelser, der er vist nogen, der har fået lov til at se det i forvejen. Det har vi ikke af god grund, men det virker som om, at selv dem der følger meget med i golf, de synes, det er en fed serie, så jeg glæder mig rigtig meget.
Og så er der også den sidste ting, jeg lige vil highlighte. Jeg er virkelig spændt på at se Fitzpatricks US Open, fordi det betød så meget for ham og for europæisk golf og for produktionen af den her serie, at de fulgte ham i forvejen, og så også hele det her med Billy Foster, ikke? Hans caddy, som fik sin
og hele historien i den, at han vandt US Amateur på samme bane, og alt det her, ikke? Alle de der historien, der skal udfoldes, det bliver super, super interessant.
Ja, virkelig. Ellers noget, Andreas?
Nej, vi glæder os til at se, hvordan det bliver.
Ja, jeg ved ikke, om det gælder for danskere, men jeg så, at der er jo den her Super Bowl-reklame, som allerede kan ses på YouTube. Og der er noget med, hvis man scanner den QR-kode, så får du efter Super Bowl en mail om, hvordan du kan få lov til at se første afsnit, før den udkommer. Så det kan man gøre allerede. Jeg har gjort det i hvert fald, så jeg har skrevet mig op til at få den der mail på mandag, må det blive. Ikke? Og serien kommer onsdag, må det blive den 15.
Ja, men der skal binges en ny serie på Netflix.
Ja, fordi det er den 15. den kommer, og det er 8 afsnit, og de kommer, så vidt jeg kan se, alle sammen samme dag. Så
det plejer de, hvis det var gode ting.
Det bliver sjovt.
Ja. Det bliver godt.
Jamen, tusind tak, Andreas, for i dag.
Ja, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Golf Show.
Welcome to Golf Show.
Ja, og tusind tak også til dig, der lyttede med. Og en kæmpe stor ekstra tak til Golfeksperten, som er med til at gøre de her specials mulige. Husk at tjekke deres fitting tour kalender på Golfeksperten. Hvis du vil i kontakt med os, så kan du finde os på Twitter, Facebook og Instagram, hvor du kan kommentere og stille spørgsmål. Og det samme kan du gøre på mail@golfshowet.dk. Stik os lige en anmeldelse nu, hvor du er i gang. Det betyder mere, end du aner for en podcast som vores i forhold til synlighed. På Instagram opdaterer vi dagligt med løst og fast fra golfens verden i vores story, og sidst men ikke mindst, så husk at minde dine golfmakker om, at vi findes. Det kunne jo være, at det også var noget for ham eller hende at følge med i, hvad det er, vi render og laver. Golfshowet er produceret af Kvartrup Media, som også producerer PL-showet hver mandag om Premier League med Daniel, Jonathan og Clark, NFL-showet med Kvartrup og Elming hver tirsdag om den amerikanske fodboldliga, og Borgen Unplugged hver fredag, hvor Kvartrup og Kvartrup diskuterer dansk politik. Fortæl dine golfvenner om os, og så er vi tilbage igen på tirsdag med vores normale gennemgang af ugen, der er gået. Tusind tak for i dag.